is your usual suspects. Apologies, we are more than 30 minutes late, but it was due to some unavoidable circumstances, if I were to keep it at that. But it's good to have you join us from wherever it is that you're joining us this evening. So the pleasure is mine to be back. Anyways, like I keep saying, sometimes better late than never, but we strive to do better every single time. We strive to do better, to be better at this. And I can only promise that things will get better with time. Just kindly be patient with us. And yeah, we'll get through it all. Anyways, I hope you've had a wonderful Monday, a wonderful start to your week, and everything in that line, because it's been that bit of a day. But with plenty to talk about, of course, so much news making the rounds here and there, from areas where you expect it to be coming from and areas where you do not expect it to be coming from, and things of that nature, really. But the FIFA Club World Cup does continue. We entered match day 3 for the group stages, and as we speak, those games are live between PSG and Seattle Sounders, while the game between Atletico Madrid and Botafogo is equally on. And at the moment, PSG lead are in the lead against Seattle Sounders by 2-0. As we speak, that goal scored by Kvicha Kvaratskhelia in the first half, with Vitinha providing the assist, while in the second half, in the 67th minute, Achraf Hakimi on target once again, with Bradley Barcola providing the assist. Bradley Barcola there, a Bayern Munich target, although Al Nassr, is that Al Nassr Khalifa? Yes, the PSG president just informed Bayern Munich that Bradley Barcola is Ali Khalifi. Nasser Al Khalifi, yes, that's the PSG president, did inform Bayern Munich that Bradley Barcola is a very, very important player to their plans, to their squad, and that they are not looking forward to moving him on whatsoever anytime soon. So they're not interested in making a deal. So, anyways, welcome to the Football Tribe UG channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. I'm coming to you live from Kampala, Uganda. Papa 336 says hello. Hello, how are you? How has been your Monday? Kindly, guys, like the broadcast, but also more importantly, please do subscribe to the channel and support what I do here. Help support my channel by subscribing to the channel, by liking the broadcast. But do let me know where you're joining us from, how your day has been, how has been your start to the week. Has it been fruitful? Has it been frustrating? Has it been a success? What has it been like? What has it been like? Please let us know down in the comment section. And I'll be reading your comments out one by one before we get into the gist of my personal conversation for tonight. So that's all I ask. Like the broadcast. If you're new here, please subscribe. But more importantly, let me know where you're joining us from and how your day has been already. That's all I ask for on this broadcast. Yes, and I hope I'm audible enough, by the way. I hope I'm audible enough, because I could be here when I'm not being audible, and you know, a lot of you could be that side wondering, what is he even talking about? Yeah, I think our audios are good. I think our audios are good. But anyways, it's good to be back. It's good to be back, really. It's a pleasure to be back. So, any football fans out there, like I said, we will be following the proceedings from those games as little by little, but more importantly, the game between Atletico Madrid and Botafogo, because that's the one that has utmost attention, given that PSG are already in the lead against Seattle Sounders, a game we pretty much expected them to win. There's no surprises in that regard or in that respect. So it is all right there. It is all right there. Maybe briefly to take a look at what those current results would mean on in the group itself is what would be important. Is what would be important because if the results remain as is, then it means Botafogo lead the group with a tally of 7 points, while PSG comes second with a tally of 6 points, and then Atletico Madrid would then have finished third with 4 points, which means they equally go packing, they equally go home, like Seattle Sounders. And that's why you can see the frustration on Diego Simeone's face. You can see the sort of the disappointment, the dying hope, that sort of sadness of facing an early exit at the, inaugural new edition of the FIFA Club World Cup that's ongoing there in the United States of America. So really, I think that game tells it all. Atletico Madrid just need a goal here because once they score, then it changes, the tide changes because they equally go to 6 points. Right now, of course, they have a negative 2-goal difference, which they would have to overturn. This is something that we did speak about, that Atletico Madrid needed to win by, a very good margin for them to be able to even stay in the fights, So in this particular game, they need to win at the very least, by 2-0 to be in the conversation. I do not know where practically that would put them, but at least they will be out of the negative goal difference. In any case, they are better off scoring 3. But so far in the opening 75 minutes, they've not really done enough to suggest that they are capable of scoring those 3 goals tonight. So that's the case. That's the case, Wendy. That's what I do think. Get the feeling that my lighting is dimming a bit. I don't know why, but I hope we are okay. I hope we are okay. Anyways, so those fixtures are ongoing. You can see Atletico Madrid have a free kick here. Hopefully they can make good of it. It's in a good area. Off, and the ball flashes right across the face of the goal, with nobody, with no single player to get at the end of it. Then I think, was it yesterday or the other day, the FIFA Club World Cup reached a milestone of 1 million fans that have so far watched the tournament, as spectators attending games live from the different stadia in which these games are being played during the course of this tournament, which will climax on July the 13th. That's next month. Yes, that's when we do expect the finals. But as far as for this week is concerned, we're going to be seeing out the remainder of the group stages. Speaking about the remainder of the group stages, because this is a group, this is Group B. I'm trying to see when should we expect Group. Yes, Group A. Those games are coming at 4 a.m. Yes, 4 a.m. East African time. FC Porto up against Al Ahly, Inter Miami against Pyramids. Again, even in that group itself, you do not know what to expect really. Anything can happen. Anything can happen. But Pyramids and Inter Miami they just need a draw really. They just need a draw. All they need is a draw between themselves to guarantee that they advance to the knockout stages. And like I said, for this tournament to continue making more sense, to continue growing, Lionel Messi is good to, in some way, make it at least the round of 16 and potentially take it from there, because in that single knockout game, anything can happen. Anything can happen, because from that moment on, every game is like a final. That's how it's played. You beat your opponent, knock them out, and then you see yourself to the next stage. It doesn't matter how you beat them. All that matters is that you beat them, All that matters is that you beat them. So that's the expectation on that regard, or on that side of the aisle. So That's what we do expect, or that's what we hope does happen. Anyways, so as we follow the updates from those respective games, allow me move on quickly because okay. Anyways, apologies on that moment of silence. There's some unpleasant news that came on my screen that's are not worth talking about on this forum, really. Not worth talking about on this forum. Anyways, let's move on. Let's move on and speak matters transfers because they are boiling. They are boiling. So many news making the rounds. So many news. So much news are flying around regarding, of course, Gabriel Martinelli, Mason Mount, Alejandro Garnacho. Manchester United fans. I mean, I don't even know why Manchester United fans, in any case, feel rattled, or anybody within the Manchester United hierarchy would feel rattled seeing Alejandro Garnacho wearing an Aston Villa jersey with the name Marcus Rashford on it. And I'll tell you why. Here's why I see no problem with it. At the tail end of last season, in the last meeting with the manager at Carrington, it was reported that manager Ruben Amorim had told Alejandro Garnacho to find a new club. That means he is definitely going to leave Manchester United. So if the player has already been informed that he ought to find a new place, a new home, whatever that is, then he considers himself as good as gold. And by the way, the more you bicker with him, the more you're likely to get a lesser fee for him, because the more it rages on, the more he becomes an unwanted member of your squad. So if he's an unwanted member of your squad, then you're desperate to let him go. Whereas if it had not come to that, then you would keep him guessing, you publicly still say he's still a valuable member of the squad and things of that nature, but let's wait and see what the transfer window holds. But we'll be looking to improve the squad and things of that nature, and it wouldn't be fussing about this. But because the player has already been told, at least according to credible sources, that he needs to find game time elsewhere, then he considers himself gone practically. He doesn't. I do not think he still considers himself a Manchester United player. Really, yes, he's still a Manchester United player, but in the larger context or in the grand scheme of things, he does consider himself as good as gold. That's how he considers himself. That's how he considers himself. So whether you bicker about what he's done or hasn't done, I mean, it is provocative of Alejandro Garnacho, and he's simply doing the things that he's been accused of doing. Being immature, his social media behavior, and that of the people around him, and things of that nature. Really. Now, I've seen multiple debates about this, and the argument is, if he was wearing a non-current jersey, then it would be okay. If it was a retro, that kind of thing. I mean, in any case, he's simply showing support to Marcus Rashford, who is no longer an Aston Villa player. At least won't be by the end of this month. That means he will be a Manchester United player. Both will be Manchester United players. But again, Manchester United has undoubtedly created this kind of environment. It's not unique to Manchester United, to be honest, if we're being honest, because it is happened elsewhere, although maybe the circumstances were a bit different, where you have players that have almost guaranteed to leave the club simply because somebody disagrees with them. It's not their talent in question. It's not what their contribution on the pitch will be, but rather things other than that. So you have Marcus Rashford, you have Anthony, you have Alejandro Garnacho. I mean, practically the writing is on the wall. The unique case is for Anthony is that for him, he wants to leave because he thinks he will be happy elsewhere. And his preference is to return to Real Betis. amidst interest from other clubs, you know. Whereas for Alejandro Garnacho, he's been a valuable member of the squad last season until the very end of it. Even went on to the Asian tour, and then, of course, he was told he surplus to requirements. Then you have Marcus Rashford, who you sent out on loan to sort of reinvigorate his career, which he practically did, so that his value goes back up, and then you possibly get some money out of him for him. Now, the team that wanted him the most in Barcelona, I don't think they will go ahead and sign him, especially now that they are going after Nico Williams. Should they succeed in that pursuit, then clearly, he won't be making that move. So then you're still stuck with him. Aston Villa, where he spent the last part of last season, cannot afford him because of PSR rules, unless you're willing to back down on your £40 million asking price. So you have that kind of situation at Man United. So it is what it is. Anyways, Mason Mount is not planning to leave Manchester United this summer, despite recent rumors that have linked him with the potential move away from Manchester United. Now, this one, ever since he signed for Man United, I think in the summer of 2023, I mean, the best we saw of him was the tail end of last season when he was coming off the bench to, you know, score a brace against Athletic Bilbao in the return leg of the semi-finals of the UEFA Europa League, and then that goal he scored against Brentford in that 4-3 defeat to against Brentford. So he's that kind of player, really. It's really hard to judge what you should be getting out of Mason Mount if the last 2 years are anything to go by. In any case, he may turn out to be not much different from the likes of Luke Shaw, given his, you know, injury history in the last 2 years. So, but again, let's wait and see if there's anything that is really of critical concern in that respect. Then, key or important for us to mention is none other than Jamie Gittens, because we all know we've given you that news widely. We've spoken about it widely open that Chelsea are interested in signing 20-year-old England international Jamie Gittens from Borussia Dortmund. Borussia Dortmund value the player at about 65 million euros, although Chelsea are reluctant to meet that fee. They did make 2 bids prior to the kickoff of the FIFA Club World Cup. The first bid coming in at about 35 million euros, while the second bid was in the excess of 45 million euros. Then it was 45 plus 5 in expected add-ons, which Borussia Dortmund did turn down. Now, Bayern Munich are back into contention to sign Jamie Gittens. Now, they're really interested in signing him because they know they've been told Bradley Barcola is not for sale. That's for Paris Saint-Germain. And then Barcelona are leading the rest to sign Nico Williams, and the player has given his priority to Barcelona. Then we do not know what is going to happen with the likes of Rafael Leao, the likes of Cody Gakpo. Liverpool do not want to let go of Cody Gakpo as things stand. Then we do not know what will happen of Kaoru Mitoma, who is the other option. But that all notwithstanding, they are looking closer to home. I mean, the player is already playing in the German Bundesliga. He's done okay, although ever since the appointment of Niko Kovac, he hasn't been really a mainstay in that team. Maybe he would have hoped. So, but that it is what it is. So, but Bayern Munich are back in for him. They had tried to sign him in January, and apparently Vincent Kompany had given the green light that a move should be made. And unfortunately, or fortunately for Chelsea, depending on where you stand on the support stand for this one, the deal wasn't made. And because the deal wasn't made, what it came down to is what we have at the moment. The player is still a Borussia Dortmund player, and is clamoring. There's interest from all sorts of corners, with Chelsea leading that. Now, Chelsea have already agreed personal terms with Jamie Gittens on a 7-year contract. So that was prior But since they are yet to agree on a fee, then it remains to be seen. Then apparently, Chelsea, now, this again is related in some way or form, whether you like it or not. Chelsea and Manchester United discussed Christopher Nkunku and Garnacho last December. All parties informed, but no club-to-club talks yet. Now, they had considered perhaps a potential swap deal. Now, it is widely known, as again we've reported on this channel, that Chelsea would want to that Christopher Nkunku will be leaving Chelsea this summer, and then you have on the other side a player who Manchester United pretty much want to get rid of. Let's not forget the relationship between Manchester United and Chelsea in terms of being business is a healthy relationship. We all remember one Manuel Mata making the switch from Chelsea to Manchester United, and then of course most recently in 2023, Mason Mount making the switch from Chelsea to Man United, and then last at the start of last season, Jadon Sancho making the switch from Old Trafford to Stamford Bridge. So the business relationship is good. So they can indeed, I believe, sit down for a potential swap deal should they deem it the most plausible solution for that situation of the two players. Chelsea do not want Nkunku, but they want Garnacho. Man United would love Nkunku, but they do not want Garnacho. So unless Manchester United's priorities have since shifted, then the jury is still out there to see. Let's wait and see what will come of that. Then, but in the grand scheme of things, I mean, now again, this takes us back to the conversation of Jamie Gittens, because if Chelsea were to get, let's say, Garnacho, then they would find no need, or they would have to pull their interest, or one would expect that that means then they pull their interest in signing Jamie Gittens. However, with Chelsea, you can never say never. For as long as they have money to spend and there is a player that is available to make the move, then they will sign the player. It doesn't matter whether they end up with 100 players in their squad. It really won't matter much for as long as they get what they feel that they want, or perhaps even need. Although need seems to be a word that has sort of lost gravitas when it comes to Chelsea and signing players. Because they make it feel like they need to sign every player. Then, still, Nottingham Forest are pursuing a Juventus duo. Just for the laugh, is back with us. Hello, just for the laugh. Good to have you back, my brother. I did miss you for the last couple of days. I missed your engagement, but good to have you back. I hope you're doing well. I hope you've had no issues whatsoever in the last couple of days during when we missed you. So, like I said, Nottingham Forest are pursuing a Juventus duo in Samuel Mbangula and Timothy Weah. Now, Timothy Weah, although he does play for the United States of America as his national team, he is a son to African legend, the only African player to win the Ballon d'Or. That's George Opong Weah, former Liberian president and AC Milan legend. So George Opong Weah. So really, Nottingham Forest are interested in signing both players. Should they be able to agree to fees with Juventus? I'm well, thanks. I hope you are and your family well too. Yes, I'm all right, my brother. Thanks for asking. Yeah, we're good. So discussions apparently are ongoing, but there's no agreement yet between the clubs. Then Nottingham Forest just completed the signing of two players. Is it two or even three players from Botafogo? Igor Jesus being one of them. You know, that striker. So they're in for another striker. I mean, when you have Timothy Taiwo Awoni, who suffered a very, very bad injury, by the way, at the tail end of last season, and then you have Chris Wood, who are all aging out, and then bearing in mind that you have qualified for the UEFA Conference League, then you're going to need a little more squad depth, and then go on from there to be able to play in the UEFA Conference League as well as remain competitive in the Premier League and sort of brighten your chances of perhaps finishing higher than you finished last campaign. Although that in itself won't be as simple, but at least you need to give yourself a chance by making the necessary recruitments that you need to make of. Meanwhile, there is a goal in that game between Atletico Madrid and Botafogo. Atletico Madrid are leading by 1-0, which would, of course, it doesn't mean that they are going to advance to the round of 16, but it sort of gives them a chance with a couple of minutes still left to play. The game between Paris Saint-Germain and Seattle Sounders is still up by 2-0. So what team do you support? Yes, they need 2 more goals. They need 2 more goals. You're right about that, just for the laugh. Atletico Madrid still need 2 more goals if they are to have a chance to advance to the round of 16. Anyway, in football, anything can happen already. We've seen things happen before, so I can't rule out that they really have no chance. They could give themselves a chance. They could score a second in the 90th minute, then at the time they find the third, and just like that, blow Botafogo away, who, by the way, have defended tremendously well for the better part of about 85 or 84 minutes of the game. You say you did ask a question. So, what team do you support? When you say what team do I support, do you mean in as far as the FIFA Club World Cup is concerned, or yes? That's the question I'm trying to attempt to answer. I see clarity. Are you referring in terms of the FIFA Club World Cup or in general? Okay, in general, I support a couple of teams, but primary team. 1 is Arsenal, 2 Real Madrid. Those are my primary teams that I do support. But like I keep saying, for me, more importantly, football comes first before my allegiance to any of those clubs. So my love for football trumps my love for those respective teams. And on any given day, if Real Madrid is playing against Arsenal, I'll support Arsenal. That's the context of it. But on any given day, it's football first. So, and that's why I sort of fancy myself to come here and be objective, even when I'm talking about a team that I ordinarily I wouldn't support. And sometimes in some forums, amongst those closer to me, I speak about teams that they know or think are Arsenal's rivals and wonder how am I even able to make that kind of observation or to be that open-minded while speaking about their teams. But I mean, that's what it takes. If you're going to do this kind of thing and you're not just being content for one particular team, then you owe it to those that watch you, those that listen to you. You owe them that objectivity. So to give them the truth of the matter without you, having those leanings. We are all football fans, firstly, but we have affiliation to a certain club. Just for the laugh, I want to differ from you a bit on that particular submission. I'll give you an example. Football has matured in a certain sense on the part of some fans, and this is not general. And I hope you'll agree with me on this one once I bring the example home. You'll sit down and watch a game. Let's say you're a Chelsea fan and you're watching a game, let's say versus Man United, really, and a foul is given against your team. But then even you being a football fan, that's when you say, okay, they gave us that foul, but it shouldn't have been a foul. They gave us that penalty, but in my opinion, it shouldn't be a penalty. And remember, this is a penalty that has been given in your team's favor. But at least you have the objectivity to say, if the roles were reversed, I wouldn't want that kind of penalty to be given against me. So you having the discernment to make that judgment call, because ordinary football fans, it's emotions get ahead of them in all their arguments. So they lack the objectivity to make those kinds of arguments that perhaps you and I could afford the rest of the world, when we sit down to talk about football. So in that manner of context, you sit down and say, okay, because take the example of that game in which Chelsea were beaten by 3-1 by Fluminense, by Flamengo, and that red card straight to Nicholas Jackson. I'm sure there's a lot of Chelsea fans there that think the referee, that they were hard done by the referee. But if you're objective enough, even when you're a Chelsea fan, you'll say, yeah, our player fell short. He could have done better in that moment. Maybe he misjudged or mistimed his tackle, or it was stupid of him to make that kind of tackle in the first place, given where he was almost close to the center half. He didn't need to make that. So it takes a fan that has a certain level of objectivity to put his emotions, his passion for that particular team aside and say, yeah, here we were in the wrong, here the referee was right, here we did not deserve that penalty, and we got away with it practically at the expense of the other team and things of that nature. So while you do submit that we are all football fans, yes, that's true, we are all football fans, but the inclination towards certain clubs is what differentiates perhaps you and I, or you and any other ordinary fan out there. I hope I've given a bit of clarity to that. Yeah, did you find about Sidi Bahama Ndiye? Yes, the 17-year-old Senegalese international that is linked with a potential move to Liverpool. And now, I was reading from a source called a site called empireofthecop.com, and they were reporting that apparently Liverpool had agreed a deal in the region of 1 million euros to sign the 15-year-old. Actually, he's 15 years of age, not 17. Yes, to sign the 15-year-old from Diambas FC in Senegal. Now, of course, the player was spotted at the recently concluded Under-17 Africa Cup of Nations. Under-17. That's the competition that I did highlight when you first brought that name. They see him as perhaps the next Sadio Mane. It's a player in that kind of mold, really. A player that can develop to go into that sort of stature. And he had impressed a number of teams, although apparently Liverpool are leading the race to sign him and have already agreed the fee. Again, I'll try to follow up on that story and see if it has really, because usually the challenge with these kinds of deals for youngsters is that usually their agents decide. Their agents decide. While the club could agree on a fee, his agent can advise the player, you see, now is not the time for you to go to Liverpool. And we've had sometimes even players are sold dreams. The player lives, especially when it comes to the African context, the player leaves country X with the promise that they may be going, let's say, to Liverpool, and then they end up in a small team in the Segunda B. That's the Spanish third division. So those things tend to happen. But I'll endeavor to keep my eyes peeled out and see if there's more to the story than what we already know at this stage of that dealing. Then, yes, okay, I've answered that. Oh, I agree. We can't be. I agree. We can't be blinded by our love for our club. Our first direct and an eye for goal. Yeah, very direct. Oh yeah, I understand that. Corruption in life, in football. Yeah. So those kinds of things really happen. And by the way, in some cases, players have been even hijacked along the way. For example, because usually when two clubs agree on the transfer fee, that fee is not paid until the player makes the move. It's after the player has completed the move that the transfer fee is paid. So in some cases, you have players literally diverted en route to their supposed destination and things of that nature. as unfortunate as they are, because when it comes to players also, the thing about their agents is some agents sometimes can be selfish. For example, if let's say two teams want to sign a player like this youngster, if they want to sign D, let's use the example of Manchester United and Liverpool. So if Manchester United promise the player's agent that we're going to give you 500,000 euros in agent fees, and then Liverpool is only saying we'll give you 100,000 or 200,000, or even if it is 300,000 euros, even when the agent knows that the best move in terms of his players' development will be Liverpool, he may be swayed by the promise of the 500,000 euros as compared to the 300,000 euros to advise his player or to make the decision, because we are talking about minors. In this case, you're talking to a 15-year-old. You ought to have the influence with the player's parents to say, look here, this is the best thing for your son, and instead of him going to Liverpool, I can guarantee you Manchester United is the best place for him to develop, blah blah blah. And by the way, they're going to give you like 10,000 euros if he does join Manchester United. Now remember, Manchester United probably have not even made that promise to the family, but now in this case, it is the agent saying if he's expecting to receive 500,000 euros in that deal from Man United as compared to a 3,000 euros in agent fees from Liverpool, then he can sacrifice 10,000 euros or even 50,000 euros to get the sway of the parents to further influence the boy to say, yeah, Manchester United is the best place for you to go. I'm not saying Manchester United is a bad place, but in that sort of context, that's where some of these things could even change at the very last minute. So things of that nature. But thank you for your submission on that front. Meanwhile, those games are between PSG and Seattle Sounders, as well as that other game between Atletico Madrid and Botafogo have concluded. Of course, we all know it's PSG and Botafogo that have advanced to the round of 16, because that single goal was not enough to see Atletico Madrid make it to the round of 16. And unfortunately for Atletico Madrid, in this particular contest, we do not have a place in the knockout stages for the third best loser, as we will have at the FIFA World Cup in 2026. Because at the FIFA World Cup in 2026, we are going to have places for the third best teams, third best losers, really, or because there will be 12 groups in that competition, and then in those 12 groups, because remember, it's going to be a composition of 48 teams, and out of the 12 groups, the top two will advance to make a total of 24 teams. Now, of the 24 teams, we'll need to add on another 8 teams to make it 32, so that we have a round of 32, before we get to the round of 16. So for us to get the other 8 that join the 24, they will go back in the respective 12 groups and assess teams that finished within the third place, who are the 8 that finished best in third place, to join the other top 24. And then we formulate the round of 32, which is then played for us to determine, which it will be a knockout phase, which will then determine the round of 16, and then go to the quarterfinals, semifinals, and subsequently the finals as well. So in that sort of context, then you say, I thought he was 17. Surely it isn't legal to buy a 15-year-old, especially from different continents. Well, that's what you may assume, but when it comes to footballing dealings, you're just not going to get a player for free just because he's that age. You're not going to get him for free, especially when he's coming from a lesser country like that, where money really matters. Not that money doesn't matter elsewhere, but according to that report from the Empire of the Corp, he's 15 years of age. And I'll tell you this. Now, professionally, under professional rules, it could be the case. But also, the money could be for example, if they wanted to do a deal like that, it could be promissory. Promissory in the sense that if he then turns of the right age, then they get to pay that money in the 1 million euros. So, for example, he goes at the age of 15, but then when he turns 17 or maybe 16, I do not remember the exact age when they are allowed to sign their first professional contract, then they get that money gets to be paid at that point. So it could be in that context. Then you also submitted that it's all about money when the organization that run football are concerned. Are you okay? Are you looking forward to Arsenal season next year? Looking forward to the Arsenal season next year. Obviously, I'm looking forward to it. But more importantly, I'm also looking forward to the entire season as a whole. Given the way Liverpool are strengthening their squad, their team, as an Arsenal fan, I must be honest, I'm really, really scared. It sort of gives me a bit of shockwaves and shivers to think about Liverpool, the way they are trying to assemble their team. And yet, my hope, my prayer, is that Arsenal wins a major trophy next season. Maybe the Premier League title, maybe the UEFA Champions League title. If I had to choose between the two of them, I would go with the UEFA Champions League title, seeing that as a club we've never won it. But also, then what does the season entirely mean for the manager? In my personal opinion, I think it's the last roll of the dice for Mikel Arteta to show people that he is not just a team builder, but he's also capable of winning, of guiding a team to win. And with that, my expectation is that, or my demand, or the bare minimum, is that he wins at least one of the two trophies. His bosses at Arsenal, or those that mind him at Arsenal, may view things maybe perhaps differently from my view, but I can almost guarantee that there's a wide consensus among a fair share, I won't say majority, but at least a fair share of Arsenal fans out there who think that if he doesn't win anything major in regards to next season, then I mean we ought to count our losses. Okay, we ought to count his contribution and have him move on. And the reason is simple: is because you do not want this squad that is built, this kind of team that is built over the last 5.5 years, to sort of it has reached a point where we think it has reached maturity. But then if it does not realize the fruits that we thought it was built for, then we do not want it, expiring or going away or starting to break before it wins anything. And if it means that then we have to sacrifice Mikel Arteta and then bring in a manager that can win with that squad, then so be it. And again, in similar context, just to your question, we've spoken about this before, and I said, if let's say Mikel Arteta, we did realize he is not the manager that is going to take us over that line to win major titles, then if you are Arsenal, what kind of manager do you look out for in the market there to say, this is the guy that is going to get me over the line? And for me personally, one of my best considerations is none other than Luis Enrique, currently at PSG. He would be my top priority. The others would be more wishful than actual. I would consider Jurgen Klopp. I would consider Pep Guardiola if they were available. But like I said, those are more wishful than actual. But then away from those, I would consider Julian Nagelsmann, the German national team coach. I would really, really consider him as one of those that can come in. I wouldn't be against the idea of Xavi. Really, I wouldn't be against the idea of Xavi. So in that sort of context, already, and I hope I've answered your question perfectly. But I'm really, really looking forward to the season, really. But as I look forward to the season, I'm also eagerly waiting to see how we're going to behave in the overall transfer market, which players do come in, because then those will formulate the basis of our opinion and prediction in regards who we think will do how well going into the next season. By all leaps and bounds, measures and accounts, as from the look of things as they stand right now, then it's easy for you and I to believe or to agree that maybe Liverpool will be defending the Premier League title. So that's my view on that. Then I didn't think the Premier League would allow it. Okay, I know what you mean. Okay, I think you are referring to the earlier discussion about the youngster. Then Vats and Salah together sounds scary. And if Liverpool can add a top level forward, to I think it's game over for the others. Although it's a long demanding season. Yes, it is indeed a very long demanding season. But again, I think speaking about recently, we did have those rumors and reports re-emerge of Liverpool's interest in Alexander Isak. Excuse me. Now, Alexander Isak is a player that we've widely spoken about on this channel. In regards to the interest that Arsenal do hold in him, as well as Liverpool, but also in the grand scheme of context of where Newcastle find themselves as a team in their project, and given that they have UEFA Champions League football. And we all came to the simple agreement that a deal for Alexander Isak would perhaps be a little too difficult to pull off, or perhaps even too expensive to pull off, if indeed Newcastle were willing to negotiate. Now, again, in the week gone by, we were hearing reports that Newcastle would only be willing to start negotiating if an offer was made in the region of 150 million pounds. Now, initially we thought, well, 120, 150 million pounds could get the deal done. Now, if that rumor of 150 million pounds being the only point at which Newcastle can start to negotiate is really the drawn line in the sand, then I mean, I do not see any club in the Premier League going ahead to make such a deal, however important, however big a striker Alexander Isak is. So, but I certainly do agree with you that if Liverpool, I made an argument that under ideal circumstances, let's go a little wishful in this case. What if Liverpool were to get Alexander Isak in addition to Mo Salah, Luis Diaz, Bryan Mbeumo? I mean, that would be really, really unstoppable. But I also maintain that that also depends on how they fix themselves at the back, because you can't be very good going forward and end up like a Barcelona, because while Barcelona won the league, they won the Supercopa Hispana and the Copa del Rey, basically the domestic treble, they fell short at the continent or in the UEFA Champions League because of their failure to balance attack and defense. Maybe it's arguably one that you cannot really strike a balance on, but when you look at Liverpool last season, they did really well in their defensive duties. So in this particular case, it doesn't have to stop with Liverpool bringing in the attacking players and that top striker, but also it depends on how they handle their backline. Remember, Ibrahim Konate only has 1 year left to his current contract. Andy Robertson is of interest to Atletico Madrid. So if you are to lose Andy Robertson when you've already lost Alexander Trent-Arnold, I get the feeling that those are one too many changes in your backline already. You're willing to let go of Joe Gomez, who has been at Liverpool for the last 10 years, even though he's not a mainstay in terms of a starter. Then Joel Kosha is going to Bayer Leverkusen. So what if you made the decision that because Ibrahim Konate has refused to agree to a new contract? Now, what if you were to go to Real Madrid, and what if Liverpool were to say, instead of losing him on a free next summer, like we almost did Alexander Trent-Arnold, then why not get, a couple of some cash out of him, and then we'll go out and reinvest in the market. Of course, you've signed Jeremy Frimpong. Milos Kakes has traveled to the UK today, I think from Belgrade, to do his medicals tomorrow and to perhaps have everything concluded either tomorrow or by Wednesday at least. That's the expectation according to Sky Sport. So I think those in the backline would be one too many changes to sort of cause a disruption, because while the offense is the best mechanism of defending, but then you're bound to play a couple of teams that are sort of that play a low block that could frustrate you and your game ends in a draw, or they beat you by a goal to nil. The Nottingham Forests of this world, they are capable of playing that kind of game. Newcastle is capable of playing that game. Everton is capable of playing that kind of game. So while you may have a very lethal attacking line, it could boil down to those few margins, and then suddenly either Man City or an Arsenal get the edge over you. So, but really, in the grand scheme of things, if Liverpool are strengthened what they already have, and let's say do not lose Andre Robertson, and then retain Ibrahim Konate, and then into that add a Mark Gehi or any other defender that they could target out there, then things could really be difficult for all the other chasing opponents in as far as the Premier League is concerned, and perhaps even when they go to the UEFA Champions League. Okay, yes, you said Martinelli linked with a move to Bayern Munich. Yes, that's true. Although 50 million euros is quite shy of what personally I've been able to gather in reports. Now, apart, Arsenal cannot do a deal for Gabriel Martinelli for 50 million euros. I certainly do not think so, unless it has a direct impact on what they think they want to do in the market, or what they think they need to do, not even want, but need to do in the market. Now, yes, Bayern Munich have been reportedly interested in the 24-year-old Brazilian international, but it has been also reported that Arsenal is not one of the players that are looking to move on. Now, however, those very reports also did suggest that Arsenal could be willing to listen to offers in the excess of 74 million euros. Now, here's where I'm coming from. As an Arsenal fan, for starters, I'll say this. I wouldn't want to lose Gabriel Martinelli, but that's as an Arsenal fan. But then looking at the things objectively, here's what I would say. It would be unwise again of Arsenal to let go of Gabriel Martinelli, just because you think if you sell him, you then get the funds to buy Rodrigo Goes. You know, again, you get another player who it may take a bit of time to settle into this Arsenal side, to settle into life in London, and yet who is your substitute? Leandro Trossard, who, by the way, is what, 30 years of age, with 2 years left to his current contract, meaning in a year or two he does leave. So then you back practically to square one, where you're saying, okay, I have Rodrigo Goes, but now I need a very good backup for Rodrigo Goes. Yet you just let go of, Gabriel Martinelli. That's how I look at it, because I think there is no harm in having Gabriel Martinelli, Rodrigo Goes, in case Arsenal were to go ahead and get him, and Leandro Trossard in the same team, in addition to having the Bukayo Sakas of this world. Because Rodrigo, the advantage is he can play across the entire front three, pretty much as the way Leandro Trossard is. But given Leandro Trossard's age profile, I mean, if you do not want to lose him for free as well, you could say after next season, you can let him go for maybe about 10 million pounds. If he chooses to go to the Saudi Pro League, you could get more than that. If he chooses to stay in England, you could get relatively 10 million pounds or slightly higher than that, or to remain in Europe. That's the figure you would be looking at. So I do not think that Arsenal should be selling a player and then 1 year later or 2 years later, they are back in the market trying to look for a player of a similar identity in form of a backup or a replacement. I do not think it would be wise. But yeah, Bayern Munich have been reported to be interested because PSG have told them Bradley Barcola is not for sale, won't be leaving the club. Then their second best alternative, Nico Williams, who is also a target for Arsenal and Chelsea, has given priority to join Barcelona, although Barcelona are still working out their finances. Bayern Munich are still holding the jury out, are praying really so hard that something financially misfires with Barcelona and that they fail to sign the player. Because for Barcelona, it's one thing to sign the player, it's another thing to have him even registered. You remember the issues they had with Dani Olmo last season when it came to player registration. The sporting director in Dekwa said they have 5 centre backs and they are looking to move on Andreas Christensen, the 29-year-old Denmark defender. So, I mean, all that is in trying to create room. Now, the other thing still about Barcelona is that the goalkeeper, Vokshek, has been handed a 2-year contract, but also they've just signed Joan Garcia. Now, Vokshek, given that he was pulled out of retirement, he's well aware of his place, that he's going to be a number 2, whoever the number 1 is. But then there comes a question mark on Andres and Mark Terstegen. There are rumors suggesting that Barcelona are trying to force him out of the club. Because if you sign Joan Garcia, if Joan Garcia is going to be your number one, then that means does Andre ter Stegen become number two and then Szczesny becomes number three? I certainly do not want to think that Barcelona, given what they think they need to, the kind of order they need to maintain in their squad, they can go ahead and make that kind of move. It's not impossible, but I mean, I do not see it that way. So practically, there's a couple of factors that are influencing Bayern Munich's interest in Gabriel Martinelli. Bayern Munich are also interested in signing Jamie Gittens, who we all know is a target for Chelsea. So there's that. But also on their shortlist is Liverpool's Cody Gakpo. Liverpool have already signaled that the 26-year-old Dutchman is not for sale. Then they are also interested in signing Rafael Leao or Kaoru Mitoma as part of that shortlist. So whoever it boils down to at the end of the day that they will end up with as a replacement for Leroy Sané and Kingsley Coman, excuse me, we really wait to see how everything will span out in that respect. But yeah, the interest is there, and apparently Arsenal are willing to listen to offers in the excess of 74 million euros. Let's wait and see. You did come back to say 150 million pounds is out of reach of any team, I believe, especially with the financial fair play rules. Yeah, unless you do something, what Chelsea have practically done. They went on and sold their female team to themselves for 200 million pounds, and then sold their parking lots for 70 million pounds. Is it parking lots for 70 million pounds? To then bring record income onto their books to put themselves in better books in regards to the profit and sustainability rules are concerned. So you never know. But also, for a team like Liverpool, you really need significant sacrifices. So, for example, take an example. If let's say you've got a good deal for Darwin Núñez, let's say 70, you get 60 million pounds. Whether you milk that out of Napoli or any other suitor, and then it suddenly gives you a chance, because then Liverpool are already considering letting go of at least Diego Jota. Now, apparently, Newcastle is one of those reportedly interested in the former Wolves forward and Portuguese international. Let's say you are able to generate another 30 million pounds from the sale of Diego Jota, which is a little 30 million pounds for a player that is so injury prone. Anyway, you never know when it comes to transfer fees with the Premier League teams. Sometimes they are exaggerated, but then that gives you at least a pool of 90 million pounds to bet yourself against and say, okay, I can put back this outlay, 90 million pounds, and then look for, because we know last summer Liverpool did sign too many players. They only signed Mamad Dashville, that's a goalkeeper from Sevilla, and left him out there on loan. He's now officially joined the club. And then Federico Chiesa, who they signed for a modest 12 million pounds, who is, by the way, looking for a move out from Liverpool, at least on loan, to get more playing time so that he can be part of Italy's national team squad for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. So in the context of moving players on, maybe even in there, you could look to move on a player like maybe Harvey Elliott, or Curtis Jones, one of those two. And then you raise another maybe 20 to 25 million pounds or even 30 out of that to again put an outlay on Alexander Isak. So the team could be exploring those options in terms of player sales to generate income, to generate money that is topped up to get the ideal striker. So, but if it were flat out to depend on just going out the way they've gone all out for Florian Wirtz, then it may really raise some eyebrows in regards to their compliance with some of these rules. But again, let's simply wait and see. Although Newcastle maintain Alexander Isak is not for sale, and personally, I do think the only way he can leave Newcastle is if he tells Newcastle that he would want to his future to be elsewhere, that he would want to play from another team, perhaps completed dream move, or he's given it to Newcastle for the last 3 years. Remember, his contract still has 3 years left to it. And usually for me, I'm of the view that the moment a player expresses interest in leaving, holding them behind should be a last resort. So that's my view of those things. Really, when it comes to Liverpool's context and responding to your questions. Thank you so much just for all those questions and also submissions, your contributions in regards to this particular debate. Then quickly, then there's Manchester United. Now, Manchester United have stepped up their interest in Bryan Mbuwemo. They want to go back with a better offer for Bryan Mbuwemo, because remember their first bid was turned down. That was a bid in the region of £55 million, with 45 of that being guaranteed, and then 10 in expected add-ons. Now, this is according to Ben Jacobs, who said that Manchester United have now improved their offer for Bryan Mbeumo to over £60 million. Talks have accelerated in the past days and will continue this week. Now, this story was, I think, first scooped on by Alex Crook of TalkSport. So when it comes to Bryan Mbeumo, of course, we know the valuation is about £70 million. We know about Tottenham Hotspur's interest in the same player. We knew about Newcastle, Arsenal, and Chelsea were interested, but he has since given the green light or said he would prefer to join Man United. Hi, Safa Ali. Good to have you back, my friend. How is Turkey? Hope you guys are okay. Is Turkey anywhere neighbors with Iran and all the chaos that is happening that side? I hope you're doing well, my brother, and that you're safe. In any case, so anyways, yeah, Man United are stepping up their interest in Bryan Mbeumo. They want to seal that deal as quickly as possible to avoid any late surprise. You never know. Jason Wilcox doesn't want to sleep on the job. Well, are you for real? Safa Ali is telling us that Neymar to come to Fenerbahce. Like for real? I mean, wow. That's all I would say to that. Wow. It's not something I would have predicted, really, especially working with a manager like that. But that report is there. That report is there that apparently he's been offered a 1-year contract plus an additional year should he agree to join Fenerbahce. Okay, it's not yet happened, but I think it's called BRR report or BRR Football reported something like that in that realm, that he had been offered a 1-year contract and an option for a further year if he were to agree to join. But like I've said here before, I really do not think that Neymar is a Jose Mourinho kind of player. I find him too what? Too bossy, too you know the kind of player that feels that they really got it. I do not think he is the kind of Jose Mourinho player, because Jose Mourinho really likes players that are really grounded, players that are a bit down to earth. If it had been N'Golo Kante, I would certainly not hesitate to understand that. You remember when he literally moved around with Nemanja Matic, literally in his pocket. You had him at Chelsea, took him to Manchester United, went with him to AC Roma. So, and then Hugh Min-son. Yes, that one has been reportedly. Yeah, that is true. That Fenerbahce are interested in Son Heung-min, although there's also interest from 3 Saudi Pro League clubs in Al Nassr, Al Hilal, and Al Qadash. Those are the other 3 teams interested in signing the 32-year-old South Korea forward, who apparently Tottenham are willing to listen to offers in the excess of £30 million. Although, again, apparently Tottenham may be reluctant to do a deal for Son Heung-min before their Asian tour, because Son is a very big name in Asia, and so if Tottenham are to go on tour in that region, excuse me, then they may need a son to be with them. Anyways, you did say Fenerbahce is about to sign Jonathan David. That one is a free agent, so that's quite plausible. And I think it will be a good buy for Fenerbahce if they are able to seal that deal. But yeah, that's the update on Manchester United and Bryan Mbuwemo. Let's wait and see. We expect that deal to really move on fast. Then Tottenham have agreed a fee of £5 million with Kawasaki Frontale for Japanese international centre back Kota Takai. Yes, that's for the Tottenham Hotspur fans. Tottenham have already agreed a £5 million fee with Kawasaki Frontale or Frontale for the Japanese centre back in Kota Takai. So that's the other update in as far as transfers are concerned. Then, excuse me. Oh, okay. Of course. Then Darwin Núñez has given initial green light to Napoli to open to the move after being presented with Conte's project. Now it means that Napoli can move on to approach Liverpool for the potential signing of the 25-year-old Uruguayan forward. Let's wait and see if that deal can also move forward, because apparently there could be a disparity between demands because apparently Liverpool want a fee in the excess of £59 million, while Napoli could be reluctant to pay that. But Napoli, usually when they want a top player, they are willing to pay up. We've seen them when they bought Gonzalo Higuain from Real Madrid. Yes, from Real Madrid. Years gone by. Then, okay. The other news, we've spoken about Milos Kakes, we've spoken about Bryan Mbeumo, we've spoken about Gabriel Martinelli, we've spoken about Taichi. Then, of course, the other non-ending transfer reports are always to do with Arsenal strikers and things of that nature, and there's no really major development in that realm. Then Nico Williams to Barcelona, not any new developments at the moment. Galatasaray still hold interest in Ilkay Gundogan. Ansu Fati to AC Monaco, that deal is still on. Paul Pogba yet to give the total green light to joining Monaco, despite being tabled with a 2-year contract offer. So we are still waiting on that as well. So, anyways. But we'll keep waiting for that and more to see how things do transpire. Then now, again, these are reports that I do find wide of the mark. Now, although okay, the reports themselves are not wide of the mark. Liverpool, Arsenal, and Bayern Munich are all interested in Bradley Barcola, but then PSG do not want to sell. And this is according to L'Equipe in France, that Arsenal have expressed an interest in Paris Saint-Germain's 22-year-old French international. That's Bradley Barcola, who is also wanted by Bayern Munich and Liverpool. Tottenham will target Crystal Palace's 26-year-old England winger Ebelechi Eze after losing ground in the race to sign Brentford's Cameroon forward Bryan Mbeumo, following Manchester United's improved offer for the 25-year-old in the excess of £68 million. That's according to TalkSport. While Liverpool's 26-year-old French defender Ibrahim Konate, who is out of contract next summer, has rejected the club's latest offer of a new deal. I suspect Real Madrid may have already spoken to Ibrahim Konate and his camp, and he's either looking to say no to whatever deal that is offered to him, either to see out the remainder of his contract and move as a free agent, or perhaps even try and force a move this summer. But let's wait and see. Then Newcastle are in talks with Burnley over a deal for 22-year-old England goalkeeper James Trafford, although it is reported that their number one goalkeeper in Nick Pope, 33 years of age, is not interested in leaving the Magpies at the moment, despite interest in James Trafford. Then Borussia Dortmund, Borussia Dortmund's England winger Jamie Gittens remains a target for Bayern Munich. We've spoken about that. While Juventus are prepared to offer Serbia striker Dusan Vlahovic and Brazil midfielder Douglas Luiz, 27, as part of a deal with Manchester United for 25-year-old winger Jadon Sancho. That's according to Gazzetta dello Sport. I do not think Jadon Sancho is worth two players, Dusan Vlahovic and Douglas Luiz. At least one of the two would suffice. And then also, for those of you that did watch that video that we did do, I think, what was it about? I think it was about Arsenal. If Arsenal really need to go out and get a Thomas Partey replacement, my recommendation would be a Douglas Luiz. I mean, he's primarily proven already, and yet things have not worked out for him well at Juventus. So I think he can cut it. Then Barcelona, and by the way, he's a player that they tried to sign before, and they never got him. Then Barcelona are close to signing Copenhagen's 19-year-old Swedish winger Ronny Badge in a deal worth £2 million. That's according to Sky Sports. While Monaco are yet to agree a deal with free agent Paul Pogba. We've spoken about that. The offer is there, but they are yet to finalize on terms. While we've also spoken about Milos Kerkez. So that's the latest in as far as a transfer gossip is concerned and things in that realm. It's been a pleasure, guys. I've been with you tonight. I hope we can catch up tomorrow morning. Have yourselves a good night. Let's meet again tomorrow. But before I let you guys go, in case you're interested in learning digital skills like cybersecurity, coding, web design, then do not hesitate to check out Ebo State. You'll get a 5% discount on their trainings. They do offer in-person and online training sessions for those that are interested in learning those very important, very on high demand digital skills, and they do help their trainees find jobs in the dynamic digital world. So it's been a pleasure doing this for the last 1 hour and 12 minutes. Thank you guys that managed to join us. Thank you just for the laugh. Thank you, Safa Ali. Thank you so much, Papa236R, and all of you that managed to join us in the course of this broadcast. Those that do watch our broadcast much later after they've been published or after they're done, we do not take your time for granted. We do appreciate you just as much. Let's do this again tomorrow morning. Stay blessed and have a wonderful night ahead. Bye-bye.